Welcome to Photography for Beginners. In this short video, I'm going to show you the basics of using a digital SLR. I'm going to go over some terminology, some helpful hints, and the ultimate goal is to help you take better photographs. So here's basically the difference between a digital camera and a digital SLR. This here you've got a Sony CyberShot, a regular digital camera. Some adjustments you're able to make on this camera, and then here you get a digital SLR from Canon. This gives you full manual control over the photos you want to take. On the camera, I'm going to show you the basics that you're going to need to start up your camera and use them. The buttons you're going to require to know about. So on the camera here, first of all, right on the top here, you've got your on and off switch. So you're just going to rotate that into the on position. So off and on, and your display screen is going to come up on the back. On this particular model, you only get the top screen. You don't get an actual LCD display until you've actually taken a photo. On the front of the camera, on the lens here, you've got a switch which allows you to choose between autofocus and manual focus. Autofocus, the camera is going to focus each shot for you. Manual focus is actually going to allow you to control the focal length of each photo that you take. So true manual photos, you're going to put it on manual focus and you're going to be able to control that focal length for any shot. So next I'm going to talk a little bit about shutter speed. Shutter speed is basically how fast the shutter opens and closes. Adjustment of the speed of the shutter controls how much light is actually let into the lens. For example, the faster the shutter speed, the less light and the less image blur you get. The longer the shutter speed, the more light is let into the lens, but image blur can increase. To show the shutter speed on the display, push the shutter button halfway down. Once up on the display, to adjust the shutter speed, rotate the dial either left or right. Shutter speed adjustment number is usually displayed in the top left-hand corner of the display screen. Now let's talk about aperture, also known as f-stop. It's the depth of the field, the size of the aperture opening. Adjustment of the lens opening, measured as f-stop, controls the amount of light passing through the lens. Aperture also has an effect on the depth of field. The higher the f-stop, the smaller the opening, the less light. The lower the f-stop, the bigger the opening, the more light. Now I'm going to show you how to adjust the aperture. It's very similar to adjusting the shutter speed. On the camera itself, on the back, you've got your AV button. While pressing the AV button and rotating the same dial you use for the shutter speed will adjust your aperture. On the display, the actual adjustment will show right in the middle, right above your actual meter. Now let's look at ISO, or light sensitivity speed. Changing on the camera is not difficult. You're going to go into the settings and choose an appropriate ISO speed for the environment that you're in. On the camera itself, you'll push your ISO button, and then with your up and down arrows, move to the selected ISO and push your select button. So with the ISO, the higher the number, the greater the film sensitivity to light, whereas with the lower number, the film is less sensitive to light. A correct combination of ISO speed, aperture, and shutter speed leads to an image that is neither too dark nor too light, hence it's correctly exposed, indicating by a centered meter. Here are some hints for adjusting your ISO speed. Try using a lower number on outside conditions and a higher number on inside conditions. But be careful because detail can be lost with higher numbers. Now that we've gone over shutter speed, aperture, and ISO light sensitivity, it is important to understand that a balanced relationship of all three, indicated by a centered light meter, is going to allow you to take higher quality photos. For instance, let's say your image has too much light. It's overexposed. So therefore try making the f-stop smaller, remember using a higher number, and increasing the shutter speed to help fix that problem. If there's not enough light, make the f-stop bigger and decrease the speed of your shutter. Let's talk a little bit about white balance. In photography and image adjusting in general, color balance is the adjustment of the intensities of the colors, typically RGB. White balance is to be adjusted according to light conditions. Average white balance works in all situations, while custom white balance is much more precise. Adjusting the white balance on the camera is quite simple. On the back of the camera, you have your white balance button. On the bottom, it says WB. Push that, and then you can cycle through all the possible white balance settings. On here you've got auto, daylight, shade, cloudy, tungsten, which is we're in right now, fluorescent light, a flash setting, and then your custom setting. So picking the correct setting for what environment you're in, what conditions you're in, will also allow you to get your best picture. Your SLR camera also has a variety of custom settings. They're located on the top of the camera, and you use a large dial to switch between the settings. Manual offers the most control, but you must set the aperture and the shutter speed yourself. Program allows some flexibility and is recommended if the camera does not have a manual mode. AV is aperture f-stop priority. TV is shutter priority. Auto gives all control to the camera sensor and has no flexibility. And finally, there's lens zoom. Lens zoom allows you to shoot a variety of focal lengths from wide to close-up. It's located on the lens itself, and by adjusting the lens zoom, goes from wide angle to close-up. So these are some of the basic functions of your digital SLR. However, if you master them properly, the quality of your photography will improve significantly.